Live on a Monday, and we've got my co-host and partner back in the saddle. Welcome back, Sarah. It's the 16th of June. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett. She's Sarah Ellison, fresh off her vacation, and we're fresh and ready to go for a brand new episode coming up before mandatory minicamp takes place tomorrow. But before any of all that, and we got to get our sponsor in, which is Baltimore County Golf. We'll tell you more about them in just a bit. And congratulations to last week's giveaway winner, Daniel Geiger, for getting $350 in store credit and a custom fitting session and all that. But before we even dive into today's rundown, it's great to have you back.
It's good to be back, and it's good to be back with you. It's good to be back with all the Voltrons. I really appreciate you holding things down, and I returned rejuvenated, excited. I feel like I just had an adventure of a lifetime with my daughter, and it was just absolutely spectacular. So glad I could have that experience with her, and I'm glad to be back with you.
I look forward to, on the back end of the show, kind of giving you the chance to do a lot of what you were doing on your private Instagram, and that is kind of sharing a little bit about the trip with everyone coming up at the end of the show for your one more thing. So all that and more is what we got coming up, including Chris Sims. How about it? Second guessing his MVP vote for Lamar. After that, did Fox Sports get it wrong when it comes to analyzing this marriage that it is between QB1 and the franchise, meaning the organization? And stop me if you've heard this before, continued drama. Not necessarily about the Ravens. They've had a little bit of drama, obviously, this offseason, but there is much more around them in the AFC North division. So we'll catch you up to speed on what took place. And one more reminder, just to reiterate, that mandatory minicamp begins tomorrow. It's a 3-day pre-training camp. There will be media sessions along the way this week, so there should be plenty to discuss. And then you and I begin our vacation, our remote dark period, which is annual for us, coming up on the 25th, and that runs through July 6th. So it will be very different. We'll have pre-recorded episodes and content dropping on some of those days that we're out, but you guys know how it goes by now. This is 3 years running, and this is sort of the fuel that we need to get ourselves rejuvenated going into training camp and obviously the 6-month seasonal grind. So shall we begin with Chris Sims? And while you were out, as you know, he dropped his QB power rankings, and this is kind of how this, which was what we covered, but I didn't cover him sort of maybe having a little bit of buyer's remorse here, if you will, for where his vote ended up going, Sarah, last February.
Yeah, and so just to review what you talked about last week while I was gone, is Chris Sims put out his 2025 quarterback countdown, and he kind of does it within tiers. And, generally speaking, it's a pretty good top 10. Number 10, Jalen Hurts. That's what he calls the truth hurts. Then he's got another tier called Pocket Rockets. He's got Baker Mayfield at 9, and then number 8, Justin Herbert. Then he's got a tier called Surgicality. Okay. Number 7, CJ Stroud. Number 6, Matthew Stafford. Number 5, Jaden Daniels. Then he's got the core 4, the final and top tier. And among that tier, you got number 4, Patrick Mahomes. Number 3, Joe Burrow. Number 2, Josh Allen. And then number 1, Lamar Jackson. Just to review, Bobby, because I wasn't here last week, what was your reaction to this overall top 10? And remember, this list is not who's the best quarterback overall. It's in this moment. He's got, going into the 2025 season, based off of what they did in 2024, he's got Lamar number 1, Patrick Mahomes number 4. What was your reaction last week?
I had my fair share of thoughts about the back end of the list, but if you're asking me specifically about Lamar, I think it's deserved, and I think it's also representative of what many feel almost universally at this point, coming off his what many believed and was probably worthy of as an MV3 campaign. It also is notable that he leapfrogs Joe and Patrick, who were last year's top 2, if memory serves, on this specific ranking from Chris Sims. So not only is he the top dog in Chris's mind, a former NFL quarterback, but he leapfrogs a couple spots from 3 to 1. So I think just it speaks to this meteoric rise that he's been on since Todd Monken came to Baltimore, and since they really started building and taking chances on the wide receiver position, both in free agency and via the draft. And ultimately, it speaks to just the sheer amount of respect that exists right now for Baltimore's franchise guy.
There's some respect, but not enough respect, which we'll get to in a second. Real quickly before I get to his own second guessing, Chris Sims is second guessing of his MVP vote. When I originally saw this out in the mountains of Switzerland, I was like, "What? Patrick Mahomes number 4?" And I didn't know the context in which he was doing this list because to me, I don't care if you're a Ravens fan, a Bills fan, or a Bengals fan, and you love your quarterback. Every single one of these fan bases would be like, "Hey, Patrick Mahomes, he's probably the second GOAT of all time behind Tom Brady. At least all of his rings say so." And so, but if you're talking just coming off of the 2024 season, yeah, you can justify Mahomes being number 4. I mean, look at the head-to-head stats here with Mahomes versus Lamar, who he's got number 1. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs had a better record, but when Chris Sims put in the context of how they were winning, that offense with the Kansas City Chiefs was not the reason why. The offense for sure was clutch. Patrick Mahomes was once again clutch, and they had a lot of games that came down to the wire. And because they know how to put it away in the end, that's how they got that 15-1 record on top of a defense that kept things close for an offense that just wasn't moving the ball. Completion percentage, Lamar and Mahomes were right next to each other, but passing yards, Lamar beat him by almost 300 yards, beat him in pass yards per attempt. Mahomes still had slightly more, and I mean slightly more pass yards per game, 24.5 to 24 or 245.4. So a tenth of a yard he won by. Lamar whooped him in passing touchdowns, 41 to 26. Whooped him when it came to interceptions, only 4 to Patrick Mahomes 11. Whooped him in quarterback rating, 119.6 to 93.5. Rushing yards, we don't have to talk about. We already know Lamar got the Pro Bowl. Lamar got the All-Pro. If you're talking about how Pat Mahomes performed only as a quarterback, I can see why he filled the number 4. But if I'm starting a franchise over the next 10 years, almost everybody has to still say it's Patrick Mahomes.
Correct. Yeah. So again, you could go on and on about like different aspects of the list, like I did last week, like Jalen Hurts somehow being behind Justin Herbert. I had some questions about that, but I think I'm okay with his top 4. Yeah. And that kind of now brings us, Sarah, to perhaps some reflecting that Chris has done, right, in recent months since casting that vote.
Absolutely. And here's the thing is I don't have a problem with this list. If any Joe Schmo wrote this list, I'd be like, okay, I get you based off the 2024 season. The problem I have is the messenger of this list. And that messenger is Chris Sims, because this list that he just put together is based off of the 2024 season. And so how is it that Chris Sims voted for Josh Allen? Right here, I have it right here. He voted for Josh Allen for MVP. And he put Lamar Jackson number 2. Scott I'm trying to remember his full name. Kaskmar. I'll look it up in just a second. He quote retweeted this from Chris Sims. And he's like, hold on a second. How are you going to give Allen an MVP pity vote and still rank Lamar number 1 going into the season? Chris Sims knew that this would be the criticism against him. Again, his 2025 ranking, love it. But the messenger, knowing that you chose Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, what gives, Chris Sims?
Player that you would take above all others going into 2025 is?
Lamar Jackson. Nobody's playing quarterback right now better than Lamar Jackson. And I know that sounds weird. People are like, wait, nobody's playing better than quarterback than Lamar Jackson, but wait, Josh Allen got the MVP? Yeah, Josh Allen, like I said, I think was most valuable to his team in that way. Ravens were awesome. They had a really good team. He had a better support system around him, right? He didn't always have to make magic happen on a week-to-week basis like a Josh Allen did, right? This is a team that played some of the best defense in the league down the stretch. They could run the ball on just about anybody, okay? So that's why I gave Josh Allen the MVP. But that doesn't mean he played as good a quarterback play on a week-to-week basis. Lamar Jackson is out of this world. I mean, out of this world. He's one of those where I go back and watch and I go, I don't know. Did I make the right vote? I'm not sure. I mean, it's that. I mean, 41-4. 4,000 yards passing, 900 yards receiving. I mean, what do you want to say?
Yes, Chris Sims, what do you want to say? Now, and people may be asking, it's June 16th. Why are we talking about MVP? Because an MVP voter just admitted that he's second guessing his vote. He says, seriously, should I have voted for Lamar? He's like, what can you say? He was so good. Earlier in the show, he said that one of the reasons why he went ahead and chose Josh Allen is because of moments. He felt like Josh Allen had more moments. Okay, so that's why you're going to give him the MVP. And right here, he clearly is saying, based off the 2024 season, he's taking Lamar in a redraft #1 heading into the 2025 season. He goes on and he gives his critiques of Josh later, and Josh had a phenomenal season. I don't want to take that away from him, but it wasn't more phenomenal than Lamar Jackson. Saying, oh, it was moments. But now as I'm looking back, I'm wondering, should I have done it? Should I have changed my vote? Yeah, you should have, Josh, along with Emmanuel Acho, Dan Orlovsky, and the 4 other voters who voted Lamar #1 as the AP All-Pro Lamar Jackson, but then there's no other way to say it, but it was an MVP pity vote. And he's essentially saying, I got it wrong right here.
Play on.
Play on.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And it's through all facets of how you could do it. So, yeah, do I put value in what he brings to the table in the running game? Of course I do, just like we talked about with Jalen Hurts in the last show. There's value to that and what he does, and his scrambling, and his ability to make plays off schedule, and his ability to hang in the pocket and hang in there and be a passer and go, wait, I know I got 3 rockets up my ass and I can run around the corner maybe for 60, but I'm going to hang here because I think Zay Flowers is going to come open. Shoo! Make it happen, right? Has just the absolute right touch of when to run and when to hang in the pocket. And on top of that, has conquered a thing that to me is, I've only seen a few people conquer it my whole life as far as this kind of skill set. And I know we've hit on this before, but arguably the greatest running quarterback in the history of the game.
Yep.
And he has become unreal in the pocket, making decisions, throwing the football. Unreal. We talked about maybe Burrow could be a little more aggressive at times. Mahomes could be a little more surgical and not be so impatient. You go back and watch Lamar Jackson and you just go, I never have a question of that in any of the games, really. It's just like, damn, there's a big play. Is he going to be aggressive and throw? Oh, yep, he did it. Oh, damn, nothing's open. Will he be surgical and just take the 5-yard gain? Oh, boom, right on the money. Do it. Boom. He does it all. I don't know what to talk about with his negative other than he's got to rein it in on big game football just a hair.
Your reaction, Bobby?
I liken it to what just happened a couple months back or a few weeks back with the NBA MVP. Voter fatigue is very real. For the second time in 3 or 4 years, Nikola Jokic fell victim to voter fatigue. That's not taking anything away from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's year. Exceptional talent, exceptional player, just the way that Josh Allen is. But I felt like Shai was not more valuable than Nikola this year in the NBA. Just like I felt Josh was not more valuable than Lamar a year ago. It is very real, and I don't know how you fix it without significantly changing the inner workings of the award and the systematic approach to how you decide the award every single year. It does feel, I kind of agree with many in the live chat, it does kind of feel like a popularity contest at this point. And that's unfortunate because it's helping mold and decide overall resumes, body of works, and ultimately legacy.
Legacy, which plays into Hall of Fame. And, who gets in, and probably Lamar and Josh, if they continue their career trajectories, will both go there. But when you look at the Hall of Fame and you look at those, the accomplishments that they'll be listing, it won't be like, oh, Chris Sims second guessed his vote. Oh, Emmanuel Acho went on the vault and said, yeah, by far Lamar Jackson was the best quarterback in 2024. But then but this year we wanted to say valuable was one thing. But don't worry, Sarah, next year we won't do that again. Okay, so it was a one-time thing for Josh Allen. So just very interesting. We've had this MVP discussion before. We don't need to go much deeper, but I do think it's significant that an MVP voter in a very controversial year just second-guessed his own vote and said, seriously, he does it all. What else can you say?
And you know me, I love Chris. Got to know him personally
Yeah.
when I was in Indiana, and he came on the show, and he was great. I thought he's like super introspective and kind with his time, and generous and thoughtful, and a darn good analyst too, by the way. But like there is something problematic about this. That months later, even if it is just kind of sliding it in there ever so slightly, right under his breath almost, that's problematic. That shows that this is an imperfect system. And if they're okay with that, so be it. But that's a bummer because it is helping decide and mold legacies.
Super chats?
Yeah. Do you have one more clip from Mahomes? Or are you
Nah, we don't
all
need to
clear?
do unless
Okay.
you want to. You want me to
No.
have him explain why he put Mahomes number 4? I think I summed it up pretty well. It was the year, and it was an inefficient year, and he was inconsistent, and he didn't have to play as well as in the past because of their defense. But and I will for sure give this to Mahomes. He was still clutch. He was still clutch when it came down to the moment, and that is why you still have to give him a hat tip and say, you know what? If I was still starting a franchise over the next 10 years, how do you not pick Pat Mahomes?
And we covered it extensively last week too. It was essentially like, hey, both quarterbacks are undeniably scary. Really, his whole top 4 of core 4 are undeniably scary in their own ways. Mahomes can be playing pedestrian level football, and yet when the lights are bright, you know he's going to rise to the occasion. He's done it time and time again with imperfect football somehow translating to winning and winning Super Bowls. Before we get to super chats and a little run on gift giving that I see, Sarah, this is day 6, episode live stream number 6, being brought to you by Baltimore County Golf. And this is the first time that you have been in the saddle for this one. You already know I'm fired up to announce this partnership. We are thrilled to be working with Baltimore Pound. Bless you, by the way, and great use of the mute feature there.
You noticed.
Out of my peripheral vision, I did. But I got to tell you, I know we're both super excited about this partnership. It's been a lot of fun getting to know the folks at Baltimore County Golf and doing some giveaways, which there will be more, by the way, coming down the pike. But basically, if you're not familiar with the Baltimore County Golf system, they own and operate 5 public golf courses in and around the area. You got Greystone, the Woodlands, Diamond Ridge, Fox Hollow, and Rocky Point. Play more, pay less with Baltimore County Golf. You can grab a 3-pack of lessons from a Baltimore County Golf teaching professional near you and start playing today. Fox Hollow Training Center, which is exactly what we gifted away last week. And what I mean by that is $350 in credit to be used at the training center towards a golf club or clubs, plural, depending on what you're looking at and need, plus a 30-minute custom fitting session. We gave that away. It was an awesome Father's Day contest, and I look forward to learning more about what they have to offer. But some of the things they have coming up in the summertime are special clinics. They can introduce you to the game of golf, get you more comfortable on the golf course, and maybe along the way, you consider signing up for their Advantage card. $40 is going to get you greens fee and golf shop discounts, 16-day advanced tee time reservations, $20 in coupons, access to twilight times 1 hour earlier than the general public, and loyalty rewards points on everything from greens fees to food and beverage. You can go to BaltimoreGolfing.com, which is included in the show notes and as a pinned comment to learn more. And I know your family, being that you live on a golf course, is just slowly starting to get into the game, and I'm devilishly fired up about it because your boys literally are built to golf. Their body type, you're muted, but their body types perfect for the game of golf.
Gardner just got a new golf bag. We're kicking it up a notch around here. We are kicking it up a notch. So we just may have to come out there and go golfing on one of those courses.
Now we're talking. Gardy got the itch. All I'll say, don't know if it was a coincidence, Gardy got the itch when I was in town. I'm fired up about it.
Oh, and by the way, Gardy, while I was in Switzerland, he and his other brother were in this adventure camp in Utah. So when I came up from Switzerland, I went to Utah and picked them up. We stopped by my alma mater, BYU, and I tell you, I bought him a few BYU golf shirts. So we're in. We got the golf bag for him now. We've got some golf apparel. We just keep taking it up, hitting it up a notch around here.
It's on. That's what the game could do. It's contagious. And I love how you just call him Gardy, by the way.
I just followed you on that. I know.
Made my day. Douglas H. Brown Sr. got us started pre-show, as he so often does, with some generosity. And not only is he a channel member, but he's dropping in with a super chat today. And Douglas writes, had to send in a welcome back gift for Sarah's return. You did a great job, Bobby, but we in the flock miss us some Sarah.
Love that. My question to Douglas is why is my name in quotes?
I know. And the welcome back is too.
Well, the welcome back I get. It's like a welcome back gift. So, but that's my actual name. So
I love
it, Douglas.
Romy Raven is celebrating 2 months of channel membership, Sarah, and she's got some words of love for you as well.
She says, solo Bobby did great, but you were still missed a lot, Sarah. I am glad to be back. I saw some comments that said that they had to adjust their volumes for me to come back. So I'm trying to keep my voice both excited, but not to blowing out your ears. So I'm trying.
Oh gosh, I missed that. That's hysterical. We all missed it. It's great to have you back. And
post games after wins, I promise nothing, but in the off season, I can work on that.
Fair enough. So, as we do, we know where we stand Voltron-wise going into the show. 7-17, Sarah, is the count. If you're remembering, I don't even think we had hit the 600 number prior to your departure.
We hit 6, but we did not hit 650 before.
Okay, thank you. I needed that. Okay. Why do I think that we hit 618? Does that make...
We were around there, I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay. So right now we're at 717, and Ivory Smith II becomes 718. This is in terms of channel Voltrons, official members. We appreciate you, Ivory. Heather McCubbins, as she so often does, gifts, and also attends the show as well. We appreciate you, Heather. That brings us to 719. And Sarah, last week, I think PHP was a little busy with various things in his life, and somebody that's competing with him in terms of generosity is Chris M.
Dang, Chris.
All right. Chris is showing, she's making a play right now. She's making a case, as is Tila, as is Yojitsu, Asmodeus, so on and so forth. There was a run on gift giving last week, and Chris was very much in it. And she begins the week with a 5 spot, which brings us to 724. Bro Flacco brings us to 725. And I'll let you take this from Ivory Smith.
Ivory says most valuable to the league, not the team.
And Levinson Gonzalve hits us with a 499. Appreciate you, Levinson. I don't believe I've seen your name before, so that's always nice.
Yeah.
Olu, who's a channel member, writes, this is why these guys can't be trusted sometimes. LJ8 gets robbed. It's okay to admit you were wrong, but that's why you have to know your responsibility as a voter. His crawfishing means nothing now. Olu, directly in response to Chris Sims walking himself back a little bit. Ocean, Sarah.
Says Acho, Sims, and others should just admit that they didn't want to give Lamar's third MVP before Josh Allen gets his first. I don't hate Josh, but he's coddled.
DC Pete 379 brings us to 726 in terms of channel memberships. Appreciate you, Pete. Ivory Smith II says change the award to, quote, best player to the league, then create, quote, MVP to their team award with a bunch of laughy emojis in response to Chris's comments. Appreciate you, Ivory.
It's just hilarious because obviously MVP means best player. I don't care. It's the NFL, NBA, Pee Wee football, my daughter's basketball team. MVP obviously means best player.
Would agree. Pete doesn't say anything. He just says, hey, I'm dropping in another one. Nice. So that brings us to 727, perhaps 750s in the cards today. Levinson writes, love the show. First, I'm doing a super chat. Love you guys. Please pray for me. 28 years fighting rare kidney cancer.
Dang, 28 years. Wow. Talk about a survivor.
Levinson, We have not seen your name before, and I'm glad that you wrote that message, man. All power to you, and thank you for the generosity. We're with you.
Yeah, keep going.
Ivory, Sarah.
Ivory had to re-up my gift, paying out of the pocket now, LOL. So is he saying he originally was gifted one? Yeah, had to re-up his gift. So he was gifted one, and now he's like, well, I can't let it go. I'm doing it myself now.
We got quite a few people that, if that's the case, have been doing so in recent weeks. And what's really exciting about it is the names that become like day to day that we recognize and that are highly participants in the live chat. We kind of just, there's a general familiarity with them. And then the people that don't necessarily catch it live that are gifted memberships are feeling like they want to be a part of the live now and are stepping into the show for like a couple minutes in the middle of their days just to say thank you. And also, like Ivory's doing, pay it forward, which is super cool. Thank you, guys. Tila, over 1,900 concurrents today. Thank you guys for being with us on this Monday. Mandatory minicamp begins tomorrow. Please, on your way in, if you could, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. And Sarah, it's time for the next topic.
So the next topic comes from Fox Sports, which we will react to. So they did a list written by Henry McKenna, where he ranked the NFL's best marriages between quarterbacks and their teams. Okay, now here is the overall list that I will do a countdown on. So I don't know if I want to do all of them now. Let's start at number 10, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders at number 10. By the way, revisiting our first topic of quarterback tiers heading into 2025, I wouldn't have hated if Chris Sims had put Jaden Daniels in the top 4. But because it was just a 1-year thing, I would like to see him do it for 2 years. But he is knocking on that door in that core 4, whereas Joe Burrow hasn't done things for a minute in terms of like getting his team to the playoffs. So if Jaden Daniels is able to go to the playoffs again and Joe Burrow doesn't, I feel like Jaden Daniels should leapfrog him. But they've got him at number 10, Josh Allen and the Bills at number 9 in terms of marriages. Joe Burrow and the Bengals, Bo Nix and the Broncos, 6, Jared Goff and the Lions, 5, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, 4, Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. He certainly didn't do well with the Browns. Browns are rarely a good marriage partner. We'll just leave it at that. Number 3, Matthew Stafford and the Rams. Number 2, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And then number 1, this is the second list that we're talking about in a row that has Lamar Jackson number 1 with the Ravens. Bobby, I don't hate the list. But I feel like the write-up by Henry McKenna misses the mark a little bit, okay, of why he thinks it's the number 1 marriage. Just misses it a little bit, okay? So this is what he has to say. The Ravens and Jackson aren't your typical team-player relationship, but that's what makes them so special. After all, Jackson went 32nd overall in the draft. He wasn't the prototypical passer teams are accustomed to building their offense around. It took a creative and confident coach like John Harbaugh who could bring in the right coordinators to create an offense for Jackson. And what an offense they've made together. Last season, Jackson threw for almost 4,200 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, while rushing for 915 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jackson and the Ravens really understand each other. Relationship goals. Before I give my reaction, your thoughts on number 1, Lamar and Ravens being at the top of this list in terms of QB team marriages, and then number 2, Henry's reasoning for putting him number 1.
Yeah, I think the list obviously speaks for itself that this is 7 years running now. It'll be year 8. So I guess if you technically want to call it like 7.5 years running because of, or would it be 6.5 years running? Because I'm trying to take out the first part of his rookie year where Joe was under center. So I guess technically it'd be 6.5 years running going into, am I doing the math correctly on that? It's year 8. So I believe it'd be 6.5 years running. Whatever it is, it's coming up on year 8. And clearly they're knocking on the door within this label of Super Bowl or bust. And so I like where they sit. And I think they deserve to sit up there. Mahomes and Andy Reid, obviously a close second. I think a lot of people probably would view that as a peculiar back seat that they're taking to Lamar and the Ravens because of the lack of championships compared to that duo. But I think, again, they're speaking to marriages and the way that it works together more so than they're speaking to what they've accomplished thus far. So I get that difference. And plus, Mahomes and Andy have been together, I think, for maybe one more year than Harbaugh and Lamar have. So anyway, that's that. And then the second piece of the puzzle of this write-up, I know where you're going on this one, in terms of you wanting it to be a little bit more balanced, right, for your liking, in terms of how it's almost like the write-up is giving the coaching staff all the credit, maybe making an assumption that if it weren't for the hierarchy and the organizational consistency and stability, that Lamar wouldn't have gotten to where he is now and where he hopefully continues to go without that support. And that's what you take issue with. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just think it gives a little bit too much credit for the Ravens making Lamar, at least the way he says it. And maybe if we had Henry on the show, he would, clarify what he means. But it's those two sentences. It's correct that Lamar wasn't a prototypical passer that teams are accustomed to building an offense around. That is one of the reasons why he fell to number 32. It's also one of the reasons that when the Ravens did not put the exclusive franchise tag on Lamar, and that they made him available for teams to at least try to poach. And then we had, it was just crazy. The day that the Ravens put that non-exclusive tag on him a couple years ago, I believe after the 2023 season after the 2022 season heading into 2023, it was like clockwork, like reporters from all over the different 32 cities saying, oh, the Falcons aren't interested. And then even their owner talked about it. This team isn't interested. This team. And this was after he had already won an MVP. Okay. So I do think that the Ravens and even John Harbaugh, to a certain extent, get credit for having a vision for what Lamar Jackson could be that the other 31 teams didn't see. I remember plain as day in 2018 when all teams were at the combine and there was a question of whether Lamar could play quarterback in this league. And I remember Ozzie Newsome had a press conference and he was short and to the point. And sometimes that is the most powerful you can be. He's like, we've got Lamar Jackson as a quarterback on our board. And then I remember John Harbaugh being interviewed. He's like, oh yeah, we could definitely build an offense around Lamar when so many other people were questioning it. So, but it's also kind of a low standard, Bobby. And I think that's where I'm kind of getting at is it's like, do you give the Ravens a ton of credit because all the other teams were idiots? You know what I mean? They were idiots in that they couldn't see that this was a 2-time, almost 3-time MVP. And so, yes, they were John Harbaugh, Ozzie Newsome, and the Ravens saw things that the rest of the league couldn't see, but they set the bar low in terms of seeing and having a vision of what Lamar Jackson could be. And so then the next line is really what I take issue with. It took a creative and confident coach like John Harbaugh who could bring in the right coordinators to create an offense for Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on. Chris Sims just talked about how he couldn't find any negatives in his game last year. Couldn't find any negatives. And I would also suggest that while I do think the Ravens saw a vision that the rest of the league didn't see, they did, in my opinion, hold back Lamar for a couple years following 2019. So I think under Greg Roman, after that 2019 MVP season, they held Lamar back in 2020, 2021, and 2022. I have a graphic in there that says from 2019 to 2021, but that's a typo. It's up through 2022. Okay. So Greg Roman had him for 4 seasons and was fantastic in 2019, but they didn't evolve. They didn't unlock Lamar Jackson and his full capabilities because, yes, they thought that they were smart enough to put together an offense that was run heavy and remain run heavy for his entire career. But you have to unlock him as a dual threat quarterback. And they did not do that from 2020 through 2022. And that's why I think they're giving the Ravens and John Harbaugh too much credit. Look at these stats side by side, Bobby, that I spent time putting together this morning. So remember, he had 2 extra seasons with Greg Roman than he has with Todd Monken. but the win percentage goes up by more than 3%, which is tough to do in a 17-game season. He goes from 72.2% wins under Greg Roman to 75.8% under Todd Monken. And by the way, the defense got worse. It was certainly worse last year. Average pass yards per season, he's up by almost 1,200 yards in passing yards per season. Now, to be fair, he was injured in 2 of those seasons under Greg Roman, so that hurts his average.
Which was 2021 and 2022. He did not finish the second half of those seasons.
Right. So that skews things for sure. However, he only dropped by 70 rush yards when he went up by 1,200 pass yards. That's crazy. Average pass yards or passing touchdowns, 24 up to 33. Stayed the same in average rushing touchdowns per year. Stayed the same. Average interceptions, he went up by only 2. But if you look at the touchdown to interception ratio, it skyrockets up. How about the quarterback rating? 98.1 to 111.3? Woo! So that creativity that Henry is saying the Ravens had, well, really, it's Todd Monken that allowed him to, that unlocked him and allowed him to become who he could truly become. I've already went over the playoffs. We've done this before. How about Lamar Jackson in the playoffs? It's night and day. 1-3 versus 2-2. Passer rating, 68.3 to 105.8. Completion percentage under Greg Roman, 55.9 to 66.7 versus Monken in the playoffs. The passing yards slightly down. How about the touchdown to interception ratios? 3 to 5 under Greg Roman versus 7 to 2 in Todd Monken. So that's why I just feel like the write-up is a little much. It's a little much because I do feel like while the Ravens had more of a vision than the rest of the league, that still feels like a low bar. And I feel like it hasn't been since Todd Monken came into the picture that they've been able to unlock the full potential of Lamar. And I still don't know that he's hit his ceiling.
Well, it's tough for Greg when you evaluate his resume as OC in Baltimore. Those 2 seasons that we just mentioned, 2021 and 2022. The fact that Lamar didn't finish those years, and prior to those injuries, they were in big-time positioning, like within the AFC conference, it's tough to sit here and measure up. Now, we can all agree that clearly it was time to move on from Greg, and it probably was overdue.
And I'll admit that I was too slow on it. I feel like I took a year too long to recognize that fact also.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I think, as Steve Young told us, they needed somebody to come in and ramp things up a notch and sophisticate this offense and marry the pass game to the running attack and bring Lamar to new levels. And that's exactly what Todd has done. And obviously, it's certainly helped that they continue to take swings both in free agency and in the draft at specific skill positions offensively, which they were not doing and certainly not successfully doing throughout Greg's time, which is not a knock on Greg, right? So that's the hard part here when you evaluate Greg. 2 key seasons after that 2019 historic year where they took the NFL by storm, 14-2, unanimous MVP, rushing records, so on and so forth. 2021 and 22, he doesn't have his quarterback for the second half stretch. And his organization is not drafting and not putting talent, giving him at his disposal consistently at the wide receiver position.
Mm-hmm.
So those are facts that muddy the water a little bit in terms of evaluating Greg. With all of that said, it was time, and Lamar has shown what he can do in a pro-style offense over the last 2 years. Arguably back-to-back MVP seasons. Think about that.
Mm-hmm. Since
Todd showed up. So I hear you. I do. I think Greg's time in Baltimore, I think is often mischaracterized.
How so?
I think it's there is some within the fan base that are quick to bury him and not pay attention to, or not. they overlook what 2019 was, the significance of it. They overlook how Todd Monken has actually kept some of those running principles within the offense, within the scheme that Greg implemented. And I think they overlooked that, as I've mentioned a couple times now, 21 and 22 is super hard to measure because the way that Lamar went down with those injuries wasn't a result of being overworked by Greg and his scheme. They were flukes. They were total flukes.
Agree with that.
So anyway, I just think that because Lamar was an injury riddled couple years. You had the note of fire Greg Roman, right? That whole thing that blew up in front of one winning drive at the facility. I think that oftentimes his time in Baltimore can be mischaracterized, and I think he catches a few too many strays than he's deserving of receiving.
So I don't know what comments you're specifically referring to, because obviously it's hard to say what an entire fan base says about a certain person, right? So let me just check in on this. So I agree with you that it's hard with those to evaluate those years with the injuries, and they were not running. It wasn't Greg Roman's fault, that he got injured in the pocket as a pocket passer. One of them, I think he was scrambling though, but he was in the pocket and got flushed out. So I appreciate that you give that context for Greg Roman. Would you say it's accurate that after 2019, Greg Roman did not evolve?
Greg did not evolve schematically, correct.
Would you say it's accurate that Greg Roman could not put together a passing offense that was worthy of what Lamar Jackson could do?
With the personnel that he had at his disposal, yes.
Okay. So you think it's more personnel or him as a offensive coordinator developing passing schemes?
I would lean towards, while his resume doesn't necessarily back this up, I would lean more towards a lack of personnel. When you think about the way that they had to bail themselves out throughout that era with the Dez Bryants and the Deshaun Jacksons, and we could go on and on and on, the Willie Sneads, he did not have big-time pass catchers at his disposal. And I think that deserves to be in the conversation as to why the Ravens as an organization held Lamar back during those years. Greg's scheme may have, in a sense, but the Ravens as an organization, whether it was missing through the draft, not allocating or being willing to spend, as you've calculated over the years, on the wide receiver position, that's absolutely a part of it.
So when Steve Smith went on NFL Network or other shows and called Greg Roman, and like that he put together passing schemes that were worse than his son who was in elementary school, you think that was because of personnel?
No, that's a direct shot at Greg. Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by, like, schematically, yes, he outgrew it, and Greg's scheme wasn't elite enough for Lamar's talents.
Because I agree with you. That context is important. I think as an offensive coordinator, which is one reason why I think I held on to Greg Roman too long. It was because I didn't feel like he even had the personnel to do much. But I look back and I'm like, okay, well, Todd Monken has Mark Andrews. Greg Roman had Mark Andrews. And Todd Monken really for the first year had Zay Flowers because Bateman didn't really get into the lineup because he was injured and really couldn't make it in too much the lineup under Todd Monken. And then so you had Zay Flowers versus Hollywood Brown. And it's like, I don't know, was the personnel that much better? I think in 2024 it was, with the emergence of a Likely and Bateman returning and his emergence. So I think that, but I think even in his first year, I don't know that the receiving core was that much better. But I think that Todd Monken did more with his personnel and allowed to do things with Lamar that he couldn't do with Greg Roman. Lamar had a lot more autonomy to make changes at the line of scrimmage. He had a lot more autonomy to have a voice. He even talked about how much more of a voice he felt like he had and how he had command of it. I just think that Todd Monken has empowered him more, and he has used those pieces around him better. And I think he's clearly a better passing coordinator than Greg Roman was. And so I appreciate that, you don't want to bury everything that Greg Roman did, especially that 2019 season. But I think along with the personnel, he himself as a passing coordinator wasn't sufficient for what Lamar did, especially to give, this much credit that Henry's given to the Ravens building an offense for Lamar Jackson. No. Todd Monken unlocked him, whereas the previous 4 years, the Ravens did not.
I think that's fair. And at the same time, to give you more specifics of what I'm referring to, because I'm seeing it in the chat, meaning when I referenced earlier on a certain percentage of the fan base burying him, it's the people that dive in and say Giro was trash. Do you guys really believe that? You think he's a trash coordinator? Or do you think he fell short in what Sarah is talking about right now when it comes to evolving and marrying the two parts of an offense together to work in a cohesive manner, passing and running, or was it, man, he, unfortunately he fell victim, as most offensive coordinators would, in key seasons coming off that 2019 campaign, in 21 and 22 with Tyler Huntley and who else started? Was it like Trace McSorley and others at the end of 21 and 22 when Lamar was injured? How many coordinators would have been able to sustain that? I guess that's what I'm just trying to offer a little bit more context going back in a few years when you really evaluate Greg as a coordinator.
Yeah.
I think your counter is so fair. It's very fair to maybe think that John held on for a year too long. And I also think that it's fair to say that it was a complicated few years for Greg as the offensive coordinator. And what Todd's done ever since is a lot of what has made Todd a super successful and coveted coordinator throughout his years, both at the collegiate level and at the NFL level. And on top of that, I also think it's fair to know or to say that Todd has had more at his disposal, but he's also brought more out of Lamar when it comes to the pro style offense that he is a master at. So
one more pushback that I'll give you is that if you look at Greg before the Ravens and after the Ravens, we're seeing the same trend. So I think he is a phenomenal run game coordinator, phenomenal. But while I wouldn't call him trash as an offensive coordinator, I certainly wouldn't hire him as my offensive coordinator. Can't do it. Run game coordinator for sure. But I don't think he's done much there at the Chargers. I see complaints coming out of the Chargers fan base, a lot of the same complaints that were heard here in Baltimore. And so, I just think that he's a very, very good, even excellent, maybe elite run game coordinator. But if you talking about him as a full package as offensive coordinator, I cannot come close to that and say that about him.
Justin and Lamar too, different players. Yes, they're both
right.
mobile.
Which, yeah, but we both know, and I know that you're not implying this, Lamar's and Justin are not on the same level when it comes to the mobility.
I'm not implying that at all. But Justin is very gifted as a mobile runner, and yes, through 1 year hasn't exactly worked out well in Chargers land, but
right.
Good exercise. Didn't expect this much of a conversation around it, but I think it's nice to go back down memory lane when evaluating. I mean, I know he's had 3 different coordinators, right? Technically, but the 2 that he's worked with throughout the bulk of his career, Greg and now Todd, it's all part of his story, and they're knocking on the frickin' door right now, and they got more going for them right now, and more skill set pieces to work with, offensively speaking. And coming off a historic season, whether it's statistically, eye test, whatever you want to say, that clearly, if they go the distance, Todd's going to be a coveted candidate, you would think, for head coaching opportunities out there.
He absolutely will. Yeah. The next step on offense is to be more clutch, and on defense, you need to return to form, return to the Ravens standard. Those are the 2 things that are needed. Coaches, got to get out of the way. Don't repeat what you did in Kansas City 2 years ago. But be more clutch on offense. Defense to return to your standard. Coaches, do not get in the way.
Bang. All right. We got a bunch of quick hits, right? A slew of
We
them.
have a zillion. Yeah.
Let's see. We can pick up right here with merchandise sales. That's player merchandise sales, as tweeted out by Fox Sports here. This goes from March 1st, begins March 1st, 2024, and runs through February 28th of 2025. And this is the top 10 players. Notably, Lamar is outside the top 10. There is not one Raven that represents a top 10 player. Saquon coming off just a historic year, of course, on a number of levels for Philadelphia, on top of the championship, takes the overall slot. Mahomes is 2. Jalen Hurts also on that team, of course, the championship Philly team is 3. Jaden Daniels, who's got the Washington Commanders, as you noted a little while ago, way ahead of schedule, comes in top 5 at 4. CJ Stroud, probably speaking to how rabid the Texas market is, Sarah, comes in at 5. Josh Allen, the reigning MVP, comes in at 6. Surprising. Aiden Hutchinson comes in at 7 for Detroit. And his teammate on the other side of the ball comes in at 8. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a wide receiver. Micah Parsons in Dallas is 9. And rounding out the top 10, Justin Jefferson. I don't really know what to make of this, to be honest with you, because it's such a specific amount of time that you see the player sales for this specific ranking. But was there anything other than the fact that the Ravens didn't have one representative that stood out to you?
That was it, that Lamar wasn't in the top 10. Now, I don't know that he's ever hit too high in terms of like top 5, like I'm Googling it now. Let me see, what's this right here? Maybe I'm seeing this NFL.com thing. What year is this? He was number 1 for a minute, but it's not telling me what year it was. So anyway, I'm just surprised by that. Like, Jaden Daniel makes so much sense to me that he's a rookie. He's coming in. He's a sensation. He's in a big market like Washington, D.C. Ravens are sometimes crunched. Like, I'm surprised by CJ Stroud. Saquon makes so much sense to me in a resurgent year with a new team. Patrick Mahomes, you know, we've talked about it. He's this generation's GOAT, all that kind of stuff. So some of them I'm not surprised by. Some of them I am. And I thought Lamar would be in the top 10.
Yeah, you would have thought. Speaking of him, there he is with his daughter. I think this was years back, but Ravens Nation Live just threw out a little Father's Day wish to the Ravens flock, and we certainly do as well. Had a chance to spend some time with my father and his girlfriend last night in Troy, New York, and we did a little surf and turf and some watermelon as dessert and hanging around watching the final round of the U.S. Open, which was unbelievable. It was suspended. The final round was suspended, Sarah, in Pittsburgh at a renowned course called Oakmont. And so rain came flying through, soaked the course literally everywhere. They resumed play, and JJ Spawn ends up drilling. I'm kidding. He drained a 60-plus foot putt to win the U.S. Open. It was insane. But anyway.
That is insane. You want
Happy Father's Day.
You want to know what else is insane? How cute this baby girl is.
Totally.
How cute. Look at those cheeks.
Totally.
Look at those baby rolls in her arm.
He once corrected me, by the way, in a media scrum, that I can't remember what name was floating out there around social media that folks thought his daughter was named.
Oh.
But he corrected me, and it's Milan. I don't know if
What did you think it was?
I don't even remember how I set it up. I think I said maybe Melania or Milani or whatever, but he said, it's Milan. I said, okay, excuse me. Milan. So if that's her, she's a cutie.
Well, and if this is from a few years ago, which I think it is, I would like an update. She's so cute.
Yeah. There's Lamar. So you could tell South Florida chilling right there with the palm trees in the distance. Happy Father's Day to everybody who celebrates. And that's exactly what Lacey DeCosta was celebrating yesterday with a hilarious video that I know you got for us underneath our show right now. It is John Harbaugh and, oh, by the way, just his neighbor and best friend and coworker, Eric DeCosta.
How do you get the phone? Hey, so much for the work. You gonna go work out back there, Eric?
I hope you coach the team better than you pair of golf carts going trip.
Yeah, I didn't notice it wasn't charged. Appreciate the help. We could switch.
We can switch for the audio only. Go
I
ahead,
was gonna
Bobby.
say, yeah, audio only. It's just these two are neighbors. Obviously, we've known this over the years in the Owings Mills area, and pretty sure their backyards back up to one another, which is hysterical. But they were on a little golf cart trip, Sarah, the two of them, and it looks like John forgot to freaking charge his cart. So Eric's in the back, literally huffing it as John's sitting in the driver's seat.
Just chilling with a smile. We can switch. I don't know. John's had that bad. Is it a hip or a knee? I can't remember. It might have been hip. I know he's gotten surgery. I think he's limping around less. That still might be too much weight. But knowing him and how competitive he is, if he heard me say that, he'd be like, "What? Put me out there. Put me back there. I'll start pushing this thing."
Totally. Yeah. When I saw him, and I hadn't seen him in person in a while, and then we ended up being on the same flight as I told you on the way over to the combine back in February, and him just getting through the airport. I mean, he is really dragging what I think is his right leg. So it's just that inner dynamic, the fact that they're neighbors, the fact that their families are that close, and the fact that they have the positions that they hold for years running at a football and an NFL organization just cracks you up. Imagine being witness to that in the neighborhood, right? Like being a kid on a bike or something, just like biking through the neighborhood and seeing Eric DeCosta literally putting every single ounce of energy he has into pushing a dead golf cart with the head coach of the Ravens in the front. Amazing.
That looks pretty secluded back there. I doubt anybody saw him.
I was going to say that might be a pretty private community there. So Jameson notes that with OTAs wrapped up, which they are as of last week, and mandatory minicamp begins tomorrow, Ravens still sit atop the percentage terms of analytics and whatnot to win the AFC North for 2025 at 52%. That's the likelihood of taking the division for what would it be, Sarah? A third consecutive year, I think, if memory serves. Something like that.
That is correct. And it would be the first time in franchise history if they get it done.
Good little nugget. Cincy, 30%. Pittsburgh, 16%. And Cleveland, a measly 2%. Only the Bills have a higher percentage to win their division. That's courtesy of Jameson and ESPN Analytics. Let's take this one.
Okay, yeah. So the Ravens at the end of last week announced that they their player personnel department hosted a, quote, Legends Scout School. Okay, so they brought in former Ravens players and gave them a crash course in scouting and then also salary cap management. The team touted that it was the first non-event of its kind hosted by the team, and there were 21 different former Ravens that were there. Let's see if we remember some of these guys. Antoine Barnes, Levi Brown, Ernest Biner. I remember Antoine. The other two, Chris Chester, running back. Let's see who else on here that we could. Jared Gaither. Oh, Jared Gaither, what a name. He was supposed to, remember, he was a tackle out of Maryland. He was supposed to be like the next great left tackle, but that didn't work. He had one good year, though. Let's see who else. Michael Pierce was there. Matt Skura, former center. Jimmy Smith, probably the most prominent name. Marcus Smith. Travis Taylor. Terrence West. Remember we were trying to get him running back snaps a few years ago. Kenny Young and Jeremy Zutaw. So these guys coming back, getting that little crash course in player personnel.
Couple things. Jimmy, love seeing his name on this list. I believe he's in the process of moving back to Maryland from California. We were texting about it last week because I wanted to get him on the show. He just couldn't make it happen. So hopefully we'll revisit things with him at some point this offseason. Matt Skura, great person. Definitely could see him getting involved in the football operations side of things. He's Duke educated. He is a very, very intellectual guy. And Kenny Young making this list, Sarah. Remember, he was on the other end of that Marcus Peters trade a few years ago. And I don't remember that exactly ending well, or at least some Ravens higher ups didn't exactly speak too highly of him, if my memory is serving me here in the aftermath of that. So seeing him on this list is definitely interesting. And yeah, I guess anything else about it stick out to me? Yeah, you got some of the OGs on that list. Mine are more just within the last 5-6 years or so.
Yeah. Meanwhile, fix this. Speaking of player personnel, so according to Matt Zenitz, who used to write for the Baltimore Sunnies at CBS Sports now, said the Ravens were expected to hire Rutgers director of recruiting, Ramon Ruiz. Okay. And sounds like he's already official on the Ravens website, Jeff saw. And his title is player personnel assistant. So got another guy in there working with the team. And then, Bobby, I think you covered this last week, right? Where John Harbaugh and Cal Ripken attended an Orioles game together. There is a pop fly that went right past their heads. Okay. Right next to them. So Daniel, and his last name is being cut off. He covers
Popper.
the Chargers. That's his last name, Popper?
Daniel Popper.
That's a great name. Anyway, he tweets, Jim Harbaugh just finished his press conference, walked out of the room, and then returned about 10 seconds later. He had a message for his brother on this missed foul ball. Keep your eye on the ball. That was a can of corn. So he left the press conference to take a small jab at his brother.
It's so on par.
Jim.
It's so on brand for Jim. I say what I said last week. There's no chance that Jim Harbaugh shows up to a baseball game in John Harbaugh's position sitting next to Cal Ripken behind home plate without a glove. Jim would have showed up with a baseball glove. There is no question in my mind.
And John's got to have it too, quite frankly. So I'm sure John will be at at podium either tomorrow or the next day with these mandatory mini camp practices. And we got to ask John that. These are the hard-hitting questions. Why didn't you have your glove ready?
If I'm John, I'm coming back with one simple comeback, and that is the chances of a foul ball landing where they did and where it did and where they were, right behind home plate, given the netting, given the angle, given the percentage, very, very low percentage. And it just so happened the day that John is is at the yard, somehow a baseball lands literally feet from him. It's hysterical.
Excuses. You got to be prepared for everything.
Well, I'm giving him one. He can use that if he needs it.
I know. It's a bad one, though. Bad one.
Speaking of excuses, there's been plenty of them when it comes to Deontay Johnson. And I went on a little bit of a rant, Sarah, last week regarding his decision, as Daniel wrote right here, friend of the show, also a former Baltimore Sun writer, now with the Cleveland Browns, ESPN.com. Deontay declined to speak, meaning Deontay Johnson, who has been a part of the Ravens, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Browns. Any other team, Sarah, that I'm missing off the last calendar year? Houston. I missed it. Houston. I did miss it. Houston. So he declined to speak his piece on his 2024 season when he was suspended by the Ravens and released twice. But Johnson is trying to, quote, change that narrative for a Browns team that needs the 2021 Pro Bowlers' services, making everybody know I'm still in that form. That's the statement that he made. Not much. He didn't have much to say, Sarah, about, or really anything to say about last year's antics, which I thought was just ridiculous. But he's going to get another chance with Cleveland. And he also mentioned, Sarah, that the Browns were the only team that inquired about his services.
I think it was, listen, maybe my bar is too low for Deontay Johnson. I thought it was good that he didn't try to relitigate it. You know what I mean? Like, he's speaking to the media. What's the point? Unless maybe you're saying take some ownership. Is that what you wanted to hear?
Correct. Ownership and accountability. And if it happened once, Sarah, if it was just with the Ravens, I could get with you on that one for sure.
Right.
It happened multiple times, and he has yet to speak on it, leading all of Cleveland to believe, if I'm within that fan base, why won't it happen again? Like, just get up there and put it to bed, because he's going to continue to follow you. So that's what I would have done. He's going to get another shot. Cleveland doesn't care. All they care about is, can he serve as a wide receiver too to Jerry Jeudy, which I think that time has passed him. Can he be a wide receiver 3? For sure. He could have been that last year, Sarah. He could have been even more when Zay went down. We talked about it time and time again.
He had opportunities.
He fumbled the bag last year because of what could have happened, and he could have set himself up for a nice contract this offseason. Instead, he's going to just try and make the 53-man roster as a member of a team that's not going anywhere fast.
Well, that's my bad for bringing that slide in. I didn't realize you had covered it, but this is new from the AFC North.
I'm glad you did. I'm fired up about Deontay.
Clearly. Clearly. But the new update that's not from last week, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, the Bengals and defensive end Trey Hendrickson have resumed talks on a new contract. We know that he's been at odds with the Bengals. So is his potential future replacement with Shamar Stewart, who still that stuff is crazy. That stuff is crazy. So anyway, they've renewed. We'll see if it goes anywhere. But Bobby, it is this type of stuff that makes the Bengals start slow. This front office has got to take care of things much sooner. Your first round draft pick, one of your defensive franchise players in Hendrickson, unhappy, and to let it linger for this long, to not have their first round draft pick in there during all of these OTAs, that is super important for a rookie. I'm okay if a veteran under the same coordinator isn't showing up, but a rookie, especially a rookie who needed this because his whole reason for being drafted that high is off of potential because he didn't have the numbers. He's got to be there. And then you upset Trey Hendrickson. We'll see. They're starting new contract talks, but will it go anywhere is the question.
Since he's flirting with fire, you've got a week or so ago, they're a week or two removed from releasing their defensive captain, Jermaine Pratt. They obviously have had public issues here with the reigning sack getter, which is what you just discussed. And their rookie left mandatory minicamp. It's a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, you went ahead and paid your top 2 wide receivers top 5 kind of money, top 10 kind of money league-wide for both of them. But that wasn't the side of the ball that literally plagued you in 2024. So it would not surprise me whatsoever if they're looking at the exact same issue that they typically are, Sarah, in that first month. Warm up the bus.
Well, and one more thing about the AFC North while I was gone. I'm sure you reacted to this. While I was gone, Aaron Rodgers finally, officially signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. While I was getting those Fox Sports rankings in our previous topic, there was a tweet about how Aaron Rodgers has literally done nothing to improve the Steelers' betting odds in like anything, whether it's like to like have more wins, have a better, finish in the division, playoffs, all of it. It is all just static. It's exactly where they were. So this is going to be interesting to see how this marriage works. We just talked about marriages between teams and players. It feels like it should be a better marriage than with the Jets, because how could it not be? That marriage was doomed from the beginning. But it's official that we know 3 of the 4 starting quarterbacks in the AFC North with Lamar, Joe, and Aaron. Who's going to win it for the Browns, we don't know. But I'm not scared of Aaron Rodgers with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You've been on record. You have been on record for saying such. I think all 4 are known, by the way. I think there's going to be 2 Joes as the starting QBs.
You think so?
Has Cleveland decided it yet? Made it announced? No.
I think that would be. I think Joe could be the starting by the end of the season. I think it would be crazy if they started the beginning of the season with Joe Flacco. You have to give one of your 2 rookies a chance.
Right. I think that chance is going to come at the end. I think the opposite. I think they're going to go with Joe, and then he's going to get a few games, and something's going to happen. They're going to be going nowhere, and then whoever wins out of those 2 rookies is going to get the first shot, you would think. I can't imagine they go to Pickett. I can't imagine Pickett being on this team. Why did they bring Kenny in? Just as an insurance piece in case one of the rookies gets injured during the season, or he's not what they maybe thought they might have in one of them? I don't get the Pickett angle of it at all. But if I'm a betting man, it's Flacco gets the ball first as QB1. This team's going nowhere fast. They're going to struggle. Hopefully for his sake, he stays healthy. But let's say he goes down, or they're just kind of like scuffling. They're going to go to one of those rookies and get a look at it, because they got to be looking ahead to the 2026 quarterback class. Most importantly, assuming that they don't have somebody that's going to just completely light them on fire in Shador or Gabriel. So
what if Joe starts to have a season like he had the last time with the Browns, and they can never bring in their rookies?
Can you imagine that?
You can't bring him in if he's like winning like he did in 2023.
Yeah,
would be
you're
crazy.
right. You can't. And then
And at
all
the
of a
same
sudden,
time, if they get a look at their rookies and they say, nah, neither of these guys are it, so we don't care. But if Joe Flacco's winning, they can't tank for one of the better quarterbacks in 2025.
I know.
I just don't. It just seems like Joe would be the wrong answer week 1. They'd be putting themselves in a corner.
I don't know if Joe's going on 2023 here after what he
Well,
put on tape the last 2 years.
Listen, that would be quite the feat, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That might have been a little lightning in the bottle there at the end of 23. After what he put on film when Anthony Richardson went down in Indianapolis, it's a different structure. I think the Colts are better, obviously more well-structured than Cleveland is. But
we'll have to put a friendly wager. Neither one of us are gambling people. But we'll have to come up with a fun wager on whether or not week 1 Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback for the Browns, because I'm going to say no.
You already know we're doing it. Let's do it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out at some point, and we're happy to take suggestions along those lines. How about before one more thing, we get caught up on Super Chats, because we just got a big time gift from our friend Jang. And we'll get to that in just a second, because we'll go in chronological order. So we left off with Ivory, which means we pick back up with somebody who's been a channel member for 1 month. He's celebrating his anniversary, and he's also celebrating a 19th birthday in his family. It's Justin Holt, and his youngest son, Victor, turns 19 today, 6/16. That's 2006. Since returning to work in March, I've been demoted to the replay gang. Love all my Voltrons. We love you, Justin, and happy birthday to Victor, who have I met one of your other sons at the tailgate? Because Justin's a PA guy, Sarah, so he'll come on down south an hour or so. I think he's from the York area, and come to the Be More tailgate. So I've definitely met him in person a couple times, and I may have actually met his son. So happy birthday to Victor. We appreciate you both. God King checking in, Sarah.
Says, I don't blame Greg. No one knew what to do with Lamar coming out of college. He did what they brought him to do. Harbs did hire what he thought was best. I don't know. Again, here's my question. A little pushback, God King. I hear you, because most of the league, this is why I give the Ravens some credit. Most of the league didn't see it. They didn't even see it when he was available after the tag, the non-exclusive tag. Well, do you think Todd Monken could have had a better vision? Or do you think he only saw that with hindsight? I'm just saying. Could Todd Monken have seen it?
Well,
he's saying no one knew what to do with Lamar.
But
Steve Young would have known. Steve Young knew.
Though.
That's why he was yelling.
But
Todd Monken has known.
That's tough, though. Like, he's grown so much since then.
Chicken or the egg?
No, I hear you, but it's night and day from where he was coming out.
Sure, everybody plays better, but he did, Bobby. He did not have to run in this offense at Louisville. It was a pro style offense.
Yeah, Bobby Petrino. Yeah, and he won a Heisman under Bobby Petrino with it. I get that. But
so Bobby saw a different vision. Todd Monken saw a different vision. Steve Young was yelling for a different vision.
Years into his career.
Not Petrino.
But that's hard though, because we're talking collegiate level, and we're talking below average passer at that time.
Anyway, listen, like I said, I give the Ravens some credit because they saw more than the rest of the league did, but I don't think that they made Lamar, which is what that write-up was insinuating.
We could go another half an hour on that.
You hold your tongue.
It's not like I disagree with you. I don't see it as much as black and white as you seem to, which is
like I said, I just feel like I was fine with the way they started it, especially in 2019. They didn't evolve for 3 more years. That was a problem.
It's hard to agree with the lack of evolution, but then I'll go back to the context that I provided earlier. We're not going back there. Jang is celebrating 1 month of, and this is not the gift that I was referencing, by the way. That's coming up in just a second. But this is 1 month of channel membership she's celebrating. So thank you, Jang, for being with us. And I'll let you, she's addressing you. So here you go.
It says, Sarah, welcome back. Hope everyone had a great Father's Day weekend. I am so ready for football. Thank you, Jang. I'm going to give some highlights of my trip after these, after we highlight all these gifts and super chats.
Heck yeah. Chris B says, we all love Bobby B, in quotes. Everybody's using quotes, by himself and solo Sarah. Together, you all make an awesome dynamic duo. Thank you both for doing what you do. Chris, thank you. And I will say to Sarah, thank you, because we always are reminded in the aftermath of our solo events or during or leading up to how much we need each other. I thought it was a successful 10 days, but you're always ready for your co-host and partner to get back. And I think that is the ultimate reminder that, as you always say, and I agree, we hit the jackpot with this partnership, because it's not like at the end of it, I'm like, oh man, she comes back today. No, it's let's go. She comes back today. And that's what you hit me with this morning, where she's like flying on. Let's go. It's a pre-conference call. She's flying in there.
I did. I answered the phone saying, let's go. Let's get back at it.
So good to have you back. And so good that there's a run, a late run. Now, here's the thing on this. Two things. One, there's a late run happening right now with gift giving, which I know you and I love. You also have somewhere to be, so we do have to finish this up shortly. But 727 is where we were prior to this 20 spot from Jang. And I'll say this too. There have only been, Sarah, a few 20 spots since we rolled this thing out back in March. Jang becomes maybe the third or fourth that we've received, which vaults us, pun intended, to 747. Thank you, Jang, so much. And Chris comes in with a 10 spot on top of the 5 from earlier, which brings that to 750. Here we go, partner. We're off.
Here we go. Good vibes once again coming through.
757 because of Chris's generosity. Chuck Lund pops in, and he gets us to 762. Appreciate you, Chuck. Hope you're feeling better. We got to schedule a call with you at some point after our vacation in July. Tila hits us with a 10 spot. Picking off, Sarah, she's picking up where she left off. You should have seen Tila and Chris were going off last week. I mean, it was unbelievable.
These are two OGs,
Yep.
OG Voltrons for sure, that have been with us since I can really remember, since we've been looking at the live chat. They've always had great comments. They've been a little bit less on like the super chat gift, historically speaking. But right before I left, they started giving more. And now it's just contagious.
The giving is contagious, and it's acknowledged, and it's friggin' appreciated, and everything. 772 is where we are right now after Tila's 10 spot. And that brings us to Jang giving us a little context to her 20 spot from a couple minutes ago. And it looks like we got some celebrations in order. She says, Bobby and Sarah, I just got an offer for a promotion.
Ooh.
Figured I'd share the blessings I just received today. Love you both, and literally today, and everyone in this community. Congratulations to Jang with an offer that's on the table for a little promo, baby. Well deserved.
You know, promos come with raises. Let's go.
The funny part is Jang's based in Utah, right? So she's on Mountain Time. So it's about 11:30 in the morning there. So she started off her Monday by getting a promotion offer. That's pretty dope start to the week, Jang.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Thrilled for you. Not a Fan comes in with a 10 spot to bring us to 782. Not a Fan has been super active lately as well. Again, speaking to this contagious spirit. So, Steve, thanks, brother. Great to have you with us today. And God King with a $5 super chat, Sarah.
Says the problem is why they brought him in. They wanted Lamar to run, so they brought in Greg.
I love how we're all over the place right now. We're covering great ground. RNTY1 says, Bobby, Sarah, and Voltrons, we back. Let's go. Thank you, RNTY1. God King says, I agree. They should have evolved. And Chris B, Sarah, with an orange banner, which means it's a $20 super chat.
Super Bowl vibes, he says. Let's go.
Think about it,
Ooh,
Sarah.
I love those orange super chats.
When you feel this type of buzz in June prior to minicamp, it just, we continue to think, when are we hitting our off-season lull? When are people not going to show up? When are people not going to be on with us every single day? I don't think it's coming. Spoiler alert. I don't think it's coming. Thank you, Chris.
It's a great way to come back. We got over 3,000 concurrents, Tila, and then all this love through super chats and gifts.
Please, if you could, you don't have to always use the monetary way of gift giving. The free stuff you can do every single episode that help out the show immensely. liking the video, subscribing, interacting with us, hitting that notification bell. Everything else is gravy, and we're getting a lot of it. So thank you guys. Heather McCubbins with an additional Voltron gift giving from earlier on. She got us started. So that brings us to 783. Thanks, Heather. And Mike brings us to 788 with a 5 spot.
That's
and
crazy.
that brings us to Sarah's one more thing. Thank you to everybody for all the generosity today. You guys are awesome. Sarah, your trip looked awfully awesome. The floor is yours. One more thing, baby. Show us what Switzerland was all about.
Man. Like I said at the top of this show, I feel like I just came off of an adventure of a lifetime. I had so much fun. I just brought in a couple photos and a video. This photo I shared on on Twitter. So some of you may have seen it, but Bobby, there is something about being in the mountains that to me is exhilarating. I know that's not the case for everybody, which is why my husband didn't go on this trip. I had to take my daughter, who also is not too afraid of heights. On the left, you can see her. I've got her kind of pointed out. I took a picture of her. We're at Grindelwald Fierst, as they say it, or just first in the way we say it, but they say Fierst. And it's a cliff walk, which we went on. And when it goes around that corner, you can't see it, but it goes on. And there's a bridge between two cliffs that you walk on with that. And the wind was going so hard. There was so much wind. I could feel the bridge on this cliff walk shaking, which just exhilarated me more. Like for my husband, he'd be like, I'm running off of this thing. But there's just something about being in the mountains. Like, it's just so majestic. It's a challenge as you hike, although we went up the gondola up to this point. We went a little bit more of a hike once we hit this elevation. And I just feel closer to God. I feel closer to Heavenly Father. And just like the creations, it all takes my breath away. So this was us at this Grindelwald Fierst. And we try to go ziplining while we were up there. It looked absolutely phenomenal. But because of the wind, they had to shut down the zip line. You better believe that I was like, send me down anyway, but it wasn't to be. So, oh man, I just loved it up there. We also later, when we were in the cities, toured in Lausanne. We went and toured the Olympic Museum, and I think it's like their main headquarters. So this is me and my daughter just kind of standing up on the podium, the closest I will ever be on a podium of any kind. But the tagline for the Olympics, Citius, Altius, Fortius, Communitier, or excuse me, Communitier, something like that, means faster, higher, stronger together. It was so cool going through that museum. It would for any sports nut, just going through and looking at all the sweet stories of Olympians throughout the years, learning about, I'm forgetting his name, the man who brought us the modern Olympics, and the way he was inspired by ancient Greece. And the fact that, like, I just appreciate people who, like, he literally brought the world together, his vision, and getting countries to cooperate. And little by little, more and more countries came in. But there's my daughter there. She definitely is a champion. And she was just a complete delight to travel with. And probably my favorite moment, Bobby, is when she and I ascended what they call Jungfrau Joch, which translated is the top of Europe. So it's the highest point in Europe. We ascended all the way to the top. And this is in the middle of June. It was absolutely freezing up there. And they had some tubing, which I loved. So I took my daughter tubing. I wanted to do one where we kind of connected our tubes together. So I held on to her. So here's just a video of her and I, her and I going down the mountain.
Okay. Here we go. Two together. You're gonna be fine. Come with me, girl. I got you.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. I got you.
This is actually kind of fun.
Here we go. Here we go.
Look at me. Yeah, girl. Yeah.
We're gonna hit.
It's fine. All the way. I got you. I got you.
It's a good thing I sat up on the
That was awesome. Good job, sis.
Oh, that's awesome, Sarah.
Yeah, moment after moment like that with her. So it was definitely one of those things that I think we'll be able to look back on. Trevor, we definitely try to do family trips together, but Trevor and I also like to do one-on-one trips. While I was there, he took our youngest daughter to Florida, and then my boys did a duo trip in Utah. Like I said, my family kind of helped out with that over there. And so it's always nice to be together as a family, but there's a different bond when it's one-on-one. So I'm so happy that I got to do that with her 10 days, her and I, nonstop. And she was just an absolute joy. So that's my one more thing. Appreciate you for covering me so I can go out and have that experience. And while it was phenomenal, I'm also glad to be back. But we will remember that trip forever.
Oh, the beauty of Switzerland is just, man, the fact that you can be in that climate in the middle of June and you guys are tubing in the Alps essentially. Like, it's just, I tell you all the time, I think Switzerland is a top 3 place that I've ever been.
Mm.
And you reaffirm that with your social posts. And by the way, well done oversharing there. All right.
Oh, well, it's funny because I did check in on a couple of shows, and when I checked in on you took some credit for me doing that.
You just so happened to tune into that one, huh?
Yeah, because it was early in the trip. I tuned into the ones that were earlier in the trip. Later in the trip, I wasn't able to keep up. Probably because early in the trip, my body clock hadn't changed enough. So I was up at night, like trying to fall asleep. So I'm like, I wanted to check in on the show. Later in the trip, not as good. But yeah, I did check in on that. And I have to say, you're somewhat correct. I do think you have inspired me, number one. Number two, and this is probably the bigger reason, though, not to say that you weren't part of it, you definitely were, is I was separated from my other family. Like, I wanted my husband to see it, and I wanted my boys to see it, although I don't know that my boys really checked in that often. And then obviously my extended family, but it was mostly Trevor. Like, I wanted Trevor to be able to see it all. So I put it for him. But you are one. My friend Natalie, who you met, is one. She made fun of me when I went to Japan, and I put up one post, and it was about the Japanese toilets. That was my only post from Japan, and so I was like, okay, I can be better for all of these people. But you are definitely one of those people for sure.
Let's go.
Yeah,
it was awesome. So much so, my mom was like all in on it, invested in your Instagram stories.
I did see your mom in there for sure.
It's awesome. I'm so glad you had a great time, and to see it through London's eyes too is makes it all worth it. She's so sweet. So let's finish things up here with some super chats, and no one more thing for me today. I gave you guys enough of those all the last 10 days. Junior James, including a Francis drop in, by the way, which maybe we can discuss that tomorrow for a little bit. But Junior James, or JR James, who's a channel member, says, "What's the goal for the money raised and reason?" So when you become a channel member, you get incentives and you get perks. You can figure that out by going and clicking on the join feature button, and you can figure out the membership levels and take a look and consider what you might be interested in. But the money goes directly towards our daily efforts to bring you year-round daily Ravens content. So we appreciate anything and everything, as we always say. Tila, Sarah, and Chris back-to-back. See, they're playing off one another.
Love it.
So we're at 788, but Tila and Chris bring us to 790. So thank you both. Tila was first, then Chris. They've already gifted additional additional memberships. Jax Koa is celebrating, and before I forget, we're 790, and I know you got to go here. Jax Koa is a channel member. He's celebrating 3 months of membership, and he said, oh, you're not going to like this one.
Oh boy.
Should I make you read it?
No. Bobby was 2 feet down for the last 10 days and crushed it. Welcome back, Sarah.
Jax, appreciate it. Welcome back is right. Kimberly writes, and celebrating 1 month. I can't believe I actually didn't say the phrase. Maybe that's my welcome back present to you. Kimberly Harmon, who's celebrating 1 month of channel membership, says, "It's nice to meet you, Bobby and Sarah. Much love." Likewise, Kimberly. Thank you for being here. And King Lee has gifted a membership, which brings us to 791.
Is that different from Prince Lee? Prince Lee, a longtime listener.
You're right.
Twitter follower.
Right.
I just wonder if he switched up or if it's a different person.
You're right. I don't know. King Lee, can you let us know? Are you the same as Prince Lee? Or is it a distant cousin or absolutely zero relation? Let us know. You bring us to 791.
Maybe Prince Lee's daddy?
Yeah, exactly. And E-Man Watts becomes a new channel Voltron himself. Nice. And that brings us to 792. So thanks for an awesome Monday, and welcome
Wait,
back.
did you say
Sarah.
792?
We are at 792, so 800 is very much in reach. And again, I believe, based on my count right here, we were at 618 prior to your departure. Which,
Yeah, that's crazy
does
talk.
that sound right? I feel like I
Yes.
got more over those 10 days.
Six. I was just above 600 when I left. We were at 600 when I left.
All right. Just so everyone's clear.
So almost 200 though. That's a lot.
We began the show at 717. We're now closing in on 800, all because of you guys. And by the way, super chats are still flying in. Junior
Whoa!
James, okay, just hit a 50 spot and says, that sounds good to me. I'm glad I can help the channel. So he goes from wanting to know where these gifts are going to saying, oh, I kind of like that answer. I'm going to go drop a 50 spot on these guys on this Monday.
See, he just needed to make sure first. He didn't want it to go to some random spot.
Yeah.
So I respect that. We appreciate you, Junior James.
Appreciate you, JJ. Appreciate it.
It looks
Heather
like
McCubbin.
JR. Oh, JJ. Okay.
Yeah,
James.
JR, JJ. Gosh, Heather has just gifted us a super chat, and Chris has 5 more coming on deck. So we'll be there in a second. I'll let you take this one.
Heather says, Sarah, I went to Mount Pilatus in Switzerland. I love it. I don't think I made it there.
Oh, heck yeah.
I would love to go back. I told you that I felt like we spent maybe a little too much time in the cities. Like, to me, I think there are much better European cities, although it was nice, like Zurich and Lausanne and Geneva. But I don't think it's as good as some of the other European cities. And obviously Paris and London and Rome and all of that kind of take the cake, but there are still even other ones better. If I could have spent the entire time in the mountains, I would have.
Oh yeah. There's endless things to do in that country. I absolutely love it.
Oh, Bobby, I also want to go back because I will. I've added a new thing to my bucket list.
Yeah.
I need to go paragliding in the Swiss Alps. Yes.
Okay. It's funny that you say that because when TJ and I did Chamonix, which we've talked about, which is on the France-Swiss border, and we took a bus there. It's a small little ski resort town in the valleys of the Alps. It's about 2.5 hours from Geneva. They were paragliding. I thought to myself, would I do this? It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Paragliding is insane. When you're in the Alps of all places.
Yeah.
So I might be with you on there with a little bucket list item. I think Chris is sitting here saying we need to get them to 800 before they finish this nearly 100-minute show, because she just gifted us 5 additional on top of what she's already gifted, which included a 5 spot, maybe a 10 spot was in there as well if we scroll up enough. That brings us to 797. We are 3 out from a big number, a big milestone, and that is 800 channel members. Thank you so much, Chris, for your continued generosity. And Sarah, King Lee is answering your question.
It says it was Prince Lee. I did change it. Now my son name is Prince Lee. Okay. So he's the father.
All right.
He's making that clear.
He is the
Good
father.
to know. Good to know King Lee now.
Appreciate you, King, and appreciate you, Prince. And man, everybody for just like on a Monday, this kind of generosity is pretty special. So thank you guys for being here. We got to get our patrons in while we're at it. Jimmy Rice and Richard Harris. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. This is your monthly shout out. You can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast if you're interested in learning more and becoming a part of that awesome community. So thank you, Jimmy. And thank you, Richard. Sarah,
We just got 2 more.
I think they want it. Who's going to be the lucky number 800? Tila comes in at 798. Tila, thank you. Sean comes in at 799. Sarah, we got emails from somebody named Sean who did not like that I say 800 and 700 and 600. I addressed him and said thank you for your interest and feedback last week. But now here's Sean Coles.
Well, yeah, no, so we're still at 799. Chris B says, same. What's the goal again if you want to change it? I don't know what the goal is, except for right now. Right now, the goal is 800 members, and we're at 799, and I got to roll. I got to get my kids to the dentist.
Right now, in this moment, it's 800. We're at 799. Overall, who knows? And there'll be fun ways to give back to you guys, too.
Wait, we just got it. We just got it.
RNTY1 is the 800th channel Voltron that joins the program, becomes more involved with the show, has different graphics attached to your name now and emoji choices, and ultimately it supports the channel, and we just appreciate it immensely. We really do. So we rolled this feature out, Sarah, as you know, back in March, and to think that it's not even, we're barely halfway through June and we just hit 800 channel members. So thank you guys so much for your support. Man, goodness gracious, we got to jump.
Sorry, I was telling my son, who I wasn't telling you. I was telling my son that I'm coming. He just
no, yeah, you got stuff at 2:00, so that means we got to jump. Thank you to Baltimore County Golf for supporting the program and sponsoring this episode. You can go check them out in the show notes. Thanks to all of you for a tremendous amount of Monday support. We got to 800 channel Voltrons. More to come on all that. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Sarah, why don't you go? Because I got to give Chris some love here. If people are becoming new members, we got to give them love. You can call me from the car.
I'll call you from the car. Glad to be back. Glad to be back to 3,131 concurrents. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
I'll talk to you. Appreciate you. Chris B has just become a new member, and AKA that is 801. So thank you. And I did, just to be clear on that email that I was referencing from last week, I got some feedback from a subscriber who did not appreciate the counting that I was doing. And so what I told Sean, who hit me with, again, he was frustrated that I was doing a lot of counting. It was mostly because I was solo hosting. When I have Sarah, when we have each other, we're able to kind of structure it better. And, obviously multitasking is difficult when you're trying to read a live chat. You're trying to keep up with all the generosity in the form of super chats and gifts and you name it. So hopefully we did better at that today, Sean. And thank you to Chris. Thank you to RNTY1 for getting us to a big milestone, which is 800 total channel Voltrons. So again, Sarah had some stuff to do with her kids. We never plan on going this long, but here we are literally closing in on 120 minutes. So with that, we've got some editing to do. Appreciate you guys, as always, for dropping in with us on this Monday. If you could on the way out, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell. Sarah and I will be back with you tomorrow, same time as always, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern. It's day one of mandatory minicamp coming up, and we're looking forward to that and all and more. Thanks to Baltimore County Golf for the opportunity to work with them this month. Go check them out in the show notes, and also as a pinned comment, you can follow them on Instagram at Baltimore County Golf. We'll catch up with you in under 23 hours from right now here inside the vault. And as always, Voltrons, we appreciate you for spending some time with us. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.